Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today's gonna be another day of Reddit stories in Minecraft. Today in Minecraft, I'm just gonna be exploring deeper in the caves again. Here goes the first story. I found money in an ATM and now I regret returning it. Just what the title says, I show up to a Wells Fargo ATM and there is $300 sitting in the cash dispenser. No one around, as if someone made a withdrawal and then forgot to take their money. I waited about 10 minutes to see if anyone came back, but no one did. I was with my 9-year-old son, who was excited and asked if we get to keep it. I told him that the right thing to do is return it. However, this was a Sunday and we would have to wait until Monday. Good opportunity for a lesson, right? Kind of. I go in on Monday and explain to the manager what happened. They told me no one had contacted them yet, but they will put it back in the bank, and if someone comes and asks, they will look at the balance at the end of the month or something like that. No pat on the back, just a simple thanks, and the bank absorbs the cash with no real outcome. Could have used that $300, but I guess it's an important lesson for my kids still. When I first listened to this story, it reminded me that good people do good things without expecting anything in return. I feel like you not taking the $300 was as good of a lesson as you could have shown to your little kid. I feel like this is what builds character when you're young and shows that even if you don't get any thanks for doing something good, it's still the right thing to do no matter what. Anyways, here's the second story. I ship/stole products straight to my house when I used to work at Best Buy. I used to work as inventory at Best Buy. If you ordered an item online and our store was the closest to you and we had it in stock, that order would be fulfilled by us. I'd go around all day finding products, boxing them, slapping a label on them, and throwing them in a big pile that get picked up by a UPS truck every day. Didn't take long for me to realize Best Buy system didn't check what packages UPS picked up because it was just scheduled UPS pickups. UPS didn't care what was in that pile, so I just started boxing up MacBooks, cameras, smartwatches, whatever, and slapping my own personal UPS label on the boxes and throw them in the big pile. Sure enough, the UPS guy would just scan it all into UPS's system, with Best Buy having no idea what actually just left the building. Our loss prevention guys would freak out and be so confused how stuff was just disappearing. Sure enough, everything I'd stolen would show up the next day because my house was like zero point 0.5 miles from Best Buy. This went on for about 4 years. Never got caught. I did kind of hint at this loophole to my manager during my last few months or so working there. Edit, I wasn't waiting till the item was ordered and slapping another label on it. This is idiotic. The items were never ordered, so they never were recorded in Best Buy's order system. All that was recorded was stock count at our store, and that could take weeks to get found by SWAT counts. I quite literally took items off the warehouse shelf, threw it in a box, and placed my own personally printed label on it, then threw it in the UPS pickup pile. UPS didn't care as long as it was a UPS label, and Best Buy only cared if a label printed from their system got picked up so they could update tracking. My label printed at home just got picked up and put on the truck because it was just a UPS scheduled pickup. UPS didn't give a fuck what was being scanned in. This was 10 plus years ago, and the cameras at the time were absolute shit. No coverage of the shipping workstation in the warehouse, and all they'd see is me and my coworkers boxing hundreds, if not thousands, of packages all day long. I'm reading the comments on this post was crazy. Apparently, UPS is a really loose packaging system, and things seem to get lost all the time, or people often steal things all the time without anything noticing. I guess if once a corporation gets large enough, it's a lot easier for things to go missing and for things to be stolen than you would think. Anyways, moving on to the next story. I found $8,000 inside a bra box when I worked at a thrift store and never told anyone about it. Back in 2021, I worked at a small thrift store in my town. I was in charge of going through the socks, underwear, bras, shoes, purses, and bedding. Additionally, we would collect brand new stuff and hold them back for a sale we would have 4 times a year with all the brand new stuff. We happened to get 6 or 8 brand new bras, and one of my coworkers boxed them up for our sale. At least 4 months went by between the time we boxed up these bras and the next time I saw them again. So they weren't new, and if someone had noticed something was missing and came in asking for them back, we would try our best to find their items as long as we could. We never heard anything about them. A week before everything goes out onto the floor for the sale, we check everything over, make sure it's priced, and price them if needed. These bras and their boxes were something that needed priced, and I pulled out one of the boxes. Behind it was a thick bank envelope with nothing written on it. I opened a thick desk drawer and put the envelope inside there. I grabbed it when I went on my lunch break, and it was full of cash. After counting it, I realized it was $8,000 and put it in my bag without saying a word to anyone and didn't tell anyone. I worked there up until I left and undersold how much it was by a lot. telling them that it was a few hundred. I never heard anything about it, and no one ever asked anything about this box. So I don't think the person that donated it even knew they did. Part of that money was used to help me get a car, so I didn't have to walk. I didn't have to walk to work anymore. This would be some S tier luck. I swear I'll only be finding like pennies and random shit in my car, dude, or just like in random places. I have never found anything more than $1 ever. Anyways, moving on to the next story. Stole over $1 million from an employer and was rewarded for it. A year out of school in the early 1990s, I procured a job as a business analyst for a large family-owned tech company. This business was located in the booming heart of technology at the time and was very profitable. As tech took off over the next decade, the company thrived and remained family-owned. What was a rich family and company became exceedingly wealthy with a valuation net worth in the high 9 to low 10 figures. The family that owned it was quite neurotic, very moody, and had a reputation as very ruthless/greedy. When it came to financing, deal-making, employees, etc., I truly believe this is what held them back from ultimately becoming a household name as a company. As I progressed in the company, I gained more and more face time with the owners. I worked on some projects directly with ownership that really paid off and gained even greater access to their inner circle. Now, like a lot of people at the time, and particularly those who worked in tech, I was heavily invested in tech stocks. I discussed some of my investments and gains with ownership as casual conversation, though investing had nothing to do with my role in the company. This is until one day in late 1999 when the owner came to me and asked if I would invest some of his personal money. He wanted me to take big risks to see if they would pay off using $1 million of his personal money. I was a bit hesitant, but still being in my late 20s and unwanting to prove myself, I said I would. I asked for a written agreement where they would acknowledge this wasn't my role in the company, was a personal matter between the owner and me, and to document my compensation for this side arrangement, 20% of all profits. Around the same time, and by working in the industry, I started to notice the weaknesses associated with a lot of tech companies. They just weren't living up to their hype, and stock price and some seemed like they were starting to run out of money. I had no inside information, just a strong sense of which companies were struggling based on my work in the business. Based on this sense, I started using both my money and the owner's money to short tech companies just after the new year in 2000. For anyone unfamiliar with shorting, it means if the value of a stock decreases, the value of the investment increases. I had a few long positions, but my overall position was very short. Since the owner wanted big risk and big reward, I used his money and obtained leverage or margin from the financial institution where I maintained both his and my trading accounts. The accounts were separate but both under my name. Again, I documented this and gained consent. Well, both my account and his suffered some moderate losses in the first months of 2000 before the bubble began to burst, and but his in particular began to skyrocket. Ownership's pettiness. In June, the company began to suffer a downturn. We were still profitable, but since we provided tech services and products, we were not immune to weakness in the broader market. I had not informed the owner of my short strategy. He came to me one day and asked how his money was doing, saying he suspected it was way down like the general market. To his surprise, I informed him that while we still had some money tied up in option puts and shorts, but based on the positions I had closed, there was 1.35 million in cash sitting in the account that belonged to him. Again, I still had a bunch of open positions with, if memory serves, were worth about $1 million on that date. But the positions I had closed had yielded 1.35 million in cash just sitting in his account, which was in my name. The owner, either through ignorance or lack of attention, said, "Great, 1.35 million, fantastic work in this down market. Will you please wire it to me?" I responded that I would, but that would be taking my 20% of the $350,000 profit, or $70,000 before wiring him the $280,000. I also reminded him I still had open positions I had yet to pay off or close, but I didn't state the amount. He once again appeared not to understand or comprehend the open position statement, but instead totally focused on and became incensed about my rightful claim for $70,000. He went on and on about how many times were tough. I should be grateful for a job, particularly at my young age, and the entire $350,000 was necessary for him in the company. I knew this wasn't true based on my position within the company. Worse, this was my first time personally experiencing the greedy and corporate nature that served as the basis for ownership's reputation, the revenge. Now here comes the revenge. Since after two separate conversations, the owner didn't seem to grasp that the open positions would yield at least some income and thus additional profit, I decided not to mention it again. I sent him back the entire 1.35 million and continued to manage the open positions to the best of my ability. And here's the kicker. The owner never brought it up again. He seemed to think the 1.35 million payment was the entire value of the account and never understood or remembered the open position still existed. He never asked for records, tax documents, or any time of audit or financials. Given the fact that he was dishonest with me, I didn't feel the need to disabuse him of that notion. Ultimately, after a bit more net game, I covered all of the shorts and exercised all of my options, puts in this case, for an additional 1.8 million. I worked for the company for 3 more years, and owner never asked about it during my tenure. After I gave notice, or since I know it's a bit crass and even shady as fuck, but given his dishonesty with me over the $70,000, I felt justified in keeping the additional 1.8 million. I paid taxes on the gain, long-term cap gain, and went on my way with a fantastic nest egg. Nobody has asked about it since, and I have only told the story to a few people, and even then only after the statute of limitations passed. The final ironic cherry on top of this sundae is that during my remaining 3 years, I gained greater influence with ownership and position within the company because they considered me loyal for giving the 1.35 million back and not making too much of a stink about the $70 profit. Little did they know I got the better of them. The company eventually folded due to family disputes, but my understanding is that ownership walked away in very good financial position. They likely could have been a much better and greater company had they not practiced the same dishonesty that they showed me with their vendors, clients, and employees. Thanks for reading it. Hope you enjoyed. Okay, here goes the next story. How I used Outback Steakhouse reward system to make a ridiculous amount of money. So I used to work for Outback Steakhouse as a bartender. I worked there for a couple of years and made amazing money. That is because I caught on to a little loophole. So Outback has a reward system. You sign up online with just a name, date of birth, and a phone number. No double verification needed, and when you signed up, you just got a reward for a free appetizer. So once you type the phone number that is into the POS system, it would completely take the appetizer off the check, no approval needed. So I started using this to my advantage. Whenever people would pay with cash and they ordered an appetizer, happened very often, I would just use the reward system and use a random phone number I came up with and then take the appetizer off the check. If the appetizer was, let's say, $15 and that was $15 extra, I would pocket and add to my tip. I would walk out the store making $300 to $400 on Monday nights, and don't even get me started on how much I made throughout the weekend. It was such a great gig, and I can't believe how much money I made throughout it. Eventually, I got caught. Apparently, I used the same phone number 3 times without knowing or realizing realizing and corporate fired me. Thank God they didn't go back and actually look into how long I did this and how often, only into those 3 transactions with the same phone number. But yeah, that's how I made ridiculous money in an Outback Steakhouse. The poster made an edit that says, me and my restaurant manager were also very much friends and he liked my work ethic. He said, unfortunately, corporate needed me fired, not him. He said I could return after 60 days, but I've moved on to better jobs. To this day, he would give me a good reference if needed. Every time I read stories like these, it always makes me wonder if these reward systems are always that deeply flawed, and so in the fact that there's always somehow like a minor loophole that people can always exploit in some way. Anyways, moving on. Next story goes like this. I made my class monitor's things disappear when I was 11. No one knew she changed after that. I don't know if I went too far. When I was 11, there was a girl in my class who had been appointed the class monitor. She was mean at everyone, especially me and my friends. She shouted at us, treated us like we were stupid, and it constantly showed off the things her parents bought for her. Fancy pens, notebook, pencil cases, bags. She also mocked the stuff I had. My family couldn't afford expensive school supplies, and I remember feeling small and humiliated. One day, I saw her leave a brand new pen on her desk. I took it and threw it in the bin of a different classroom. She searched for it the next day and questioned everyone. We all denied knowing anything. A few days later, I went through her bag during recess and found a fancy notebook. I took it to the main school dumpster and threw it away. Damn, she never found it. Again, she asked around again. We denied it. She reported it to a teacher and we were searched. Still nothing. I kept doing this every week. Damn. Small things one at a time. Her pens, her notebooks, her pouches, they just vanished. Eventually, she became paranoid. She stopped leaving her bag unattended. She refused to go out during recess. She became quieter. Then she quit being the class monitor. She stopped being mean at people, and I stopped too. Life just went on after that. We were not in the same class anymore the next year, and I never really interacted with her. At the time, I didn't regret it. I was angry and hurt by the way she treated me and others. I felt like I had no other power. Eventually, I forgot all about it until recently I found my old yearbook and saw her face, and all the memories came flooding back. Now I'm not sure how to feel. What I did was cruel, calculated even, but it came from a place of deep hurt. No one even knew what I did. Not then, not now. I heard she's married with kids now. Seems happy. I don't wish her anything bad. I just wonder, did I go too far? The poster's edit. A lot of people have asked what she actually did to me back then, so here it is. It wasn't just her doing her job as a class monitor. She shouted at me almost daily, pushed me around, and laughed at me for being too thin, for having short hair, and called me a boy, and for having dark skin. She mocked the way I walked and the way I talked, and made fun of me in front of others when I got answers wrong in class. We were both Muslims, but because I didn't wear a headscarf, she made fun of me for being a bad Muslim. She had friends who joined in, spreading rumors about me and a few other kids. They told people I didn't bathe and that I was dirty. This went on for months. I never told my mom because I knew she'd come to the school and I was terrified things would get worse. I was already being pushed around and I feared it could turn physical if I spoke up. It wasn't about her fancy things. I didn't care about them. I cared about the fact that I was humiliated and made to feel small every day. At 11, I didn't have the words or the support to handle it any other way. Still, I know what I did was wrong. And this story kind of reminds me of when I was little during recess. There was this girl that absolutely was annoying to the max and would kind of do what this person did to me, but not necessarily in the sense because, I mean, they were a Muslim or, I mean, they were darker skinned, but just because I was, like, I guess on the chubbier side when I was little, so she'd always bully me about my weight. That one time during recess, I asked the teacher if I could go back to the classroom and get something that I had forgotten. And there was super glue in this girl's desk that I had remembered seeing. And then I had remembered that she had bought this 25-cent coin that she just left on her desk and that she like really valued for some reason. I don't remember even why, but I super glued the what is it called, the quarter to her desk, and then pretended like, and then acted like nothing happened. And then so the next day she was freaking out. Anyways, moving on. Okay, the next story goes like this. Many years ago, I sold frozen steaks door to door, and I would then rig the packages in my favor to make more money. When I was much younger, I had a job as a door-to-door salesman for a steak delivery company. You know the type patrolling the neighborhood with freezers in the back of pickup trucks. Well, anyways, it was a good cash job for that strange period of my life. When you arrived to the warehouse in the morning, you loaded up what packages of meat you wanted to take out for the day: steaks, chicken, pork, cheesecakes, and pies, etc. Before you rolled out the warehouse, there was an employee who counted how much product you took out to the door, and when you arrived back in the evening, you were responsible for paying a set price for the product you sold, and you kept the rest of the money. Inside every case of meat were six smaller sleeve-type boxes which contained different cuts of meat in them. I used to tell the people I sold the meat to that I needed those smaller boxes back as a part of company-wide recycling program to save the earth or whatever. I always took those empty boxes home with me with this plan in mind. After working there for a while, I would leave the warehouse in the morning and drive to my house, where I would spend time opening cases of meat, taking one or two cuts of meat out of every box and creating my own boxes for me to sell. So if I created 6 sleeves, I would turn around and sell those to customers for all the profit. The only downside is on paper, it made me look like I was slumping in my sales when in reality I was making a couple hundred extra dollars per day in pure profit that I didn't have to give back to the company. It was a delicate balancing act because I couldn't make it look like I sold nothing on a daily basis or they would have kicked me out. They would have kicked me to the curb. It was also shorting customers on product because I was taking from whole boxes. So not only was it a terrible product to begin with, I was also selling people less meat for more money and lining my own pockets. This is the editor's post, or the poster's edit, I mean. It was 17 years ago when I was 19 and money hungry. Yes, I realized I was stealing. Yes, I realized I was dishonest. Do I regret it? Also, yes. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this, but I've never in my life heard of a steak delivery company driving around your neighborhood with a cooler in the back with steaks trying to sell it to people. Like, what? I've never heard about this in my entire life. This is quite random. I'm not sure if you guys have. If you have, let me know down in the comments because this is quite new to me. I've never even heard of this. Anyways, moving on. The next story goes like this. I called OSHA on my job and nobody knows it was me that did it. This happened a little over a year ago. I work at a chain spa as an esthetician. Our building isn't in the best shape, but our property manager is notoriously difficult to deal with. We're in a small strip and there's about 3 other businesses that share our strip. Our building had an issue, can't remember if it was the roof or the AC unit, but water was leaking into the ceiling and causing water damage. We had to remove and replace several ceiling tiles before But this time it got really bad. A ceiling tile fell off in the hallway and water was pouring from it. Want to know the solution my job came up with? They put a garbage bin underneath the leak and called it a day. We started calling it our Tranquility Waterfall as a joke. Imagine taking your client back for what's supposed to be a relaxing service, and you first have to pass the obnoxiously loud cascade of water flowing into an industrial sized garbage can. Nobody was doing anything about it. Management seemed to think that it wasn't that big of a deal, but the service providers were starting to get worried. Water damage was spreading to the massage rooms, and some therapists were worried a ceiling tile might fall on them or a client during a service. Oh my god, can you imagine? Wow. LOL. It was a completely ridiculous situation. To make it worse, before they put the garbage bin down, water had already seeped into the carpet, so now the whole building smelled like mildew. Again, everyone was talking about it, but no one was doing anything. My coworkers were wondering when a client was going to finally call OSHA on us. I decided I didn't want to wait, so I went to their website and filed a complaint. On the website, they said it might take up to 30 days for any action to be taken. I kind of sighed and started to doubt myself. Maybe it wasn't that big of an issue. A few days later, I overheard my managers in the office talking about OSHA. Seemed like my complaint actually did something. We had to shut down for a few days. Everything got fixed. Thankfully, I can't remember if the issue was with the roof or the AC unit. They had mold inspectors come out and they must have found something because one of our massage rooms had to be completely gutted and redone, drywall and everything. It sucked being down a room for a while, but no one was complaining afterwards since the room was much nicer than it was before. Lol. I never told anyone about my job about it. I don't know why, it just feels slightly embarrassing for some reason. I don't want to be perceived as a Karen or complainer because I'm really not. I tell myself that I hadn't done it, eventually someone else would have. Better sooner than later. I was reading the comments on this post, and this one comment completely describes the story. Never be ashamed to aim sunshine at the dark. Okay, here goes the next story. My neighbors are a horror show, and I can't stop eavesdropping on them. My neighbors are absolutely toxic, and I like to listen to them argue. I know it's creepy and weird, and I shouldn't, but yeah, I'm that nosy neighbor that knows all your business. It's wrong, but I still do it. My neighbors are fantastic entertainment. There, I said it. Let's call them Jeff and Jen. Jeff and Jen are the trashiest, most trailer park stereotypical drug abusing daily drama morons you could hope to meet in West Bum Lick, Alabama. But here's the kicker. Our neighborhood is in a pretty affluent suburb in a high cost of living area. Jeff and Jen rent an in-law apartment over my neighbor's 3-car garage that abuts my backyard. There's a thin screen of trees between their yard and mine. It's enough that we can't see each other, but I can hear everything they talk about, mostly because they spent roughly 20 hours a day drinking and doing God knows what substances outside, and they don't seem to be capable of conversing for more than 20 minutes without screaming at each other. I used to hate it. I tried calling the cops a few times for disturbing the peace when they were having one of their classic 2 a.m. Saturday blowouts, but I kept getting told there wasn't much they could do about it since no actual domestic violence was involved. Jeff and Jen knew who had called the cops. It was pretty obvious in retrospect, so they sent their dog over to shit in my yard while I was at work. Nice, folks. So I decided to embrace the chaos and grew to enjoy it. It became nightly entertainment. The weekends were always particularly good quality because there were side characters involved. When I hear it starting up, I crack a beer and go out to sit on my back deck to enjoy the show. It's never boring. This past weekend, Jen spent about 3 hours screaming at Jess about how she was a changed woman. She was turning over a new leaf and wasn't going to take his shit anymore. She wasn't going to believe his lies that he didn't take her stuff because she came home and caught him nodding off. She was a new, strong, independent woman, and she didn't need him. Jeff countered with, "What are you What are you talking about? I didn't take his stuff. I just drank a little. I'm fine. Jen threatened to leave, which apparently woke Jeff up a little, so he threatened to take the dog and go live with his mom. This went on for about 2 hours before I assume they found more stuff because they both suddenly became very mellow and started planning how they wanted to cut down some trees on my property. I'm keeping an eye on that. But anyways, that's it. I'm a nosy neighbor and I like to sit outside and listen to the latest installment of my program. And before anyone says anything, yes, if it ever seems likely to escalate to violence, I will get law enforcement involved again. I'm noisy, not heartless. I feel like this was me every time I went to Walmart and I was overhearing a family talking about their issues, or I was at the lunch table back in high school and I would just overhear what people were saying and I always be like in complete awe of what happened or like what they were talking about. Anyways, let's go on to the next story. The story goes like this. Went on a date with a vegan. He proved all the stereotypes to be true. Sigh. I didn't know he was vegan initially. This was something he only told me after we'd ordered our food. I kind of stiffened because I had an idea of what was coming, but he told me to relax and enjoy my lamb shank, and that he's not that kind of vegan. Except when we eventually got to the topic of what we were each looking for in terms of dating, he suddenly brought up the lamb. I mean, ideally, I would be with another vegan. He said I was kind of waiting to see what you would order, and if you ordered the lamb of all things, that's a baby animal. It was so passive aggressive and sudden after our fairly pleasant conversation that I was thrown. I told him, well, you said you're not the luxury kind of vegan, but here you are. He said, no, yeah, I know. I just can't help it sometimes. He also mentioned that if we keep dating, eventually I'll come around and be a vegan too, because an intelligent and open minded woman like you wouldn't deny the truth once you see it. He actually wanted another date after that and was surprised when I said no. He tried to change my mind, but I stood my ground. Reading this story actually made me realize I've actually never met a vegan in my life. I feel like that's quite. I'm not sure if that's a common thing for there to be quite a lot of vegans around, but I've never met one in my entire life, and that's kind of rare. Anyways, let's go to the next story. Okay, the next story goes like this. I wish I never saw what I saw on my boyfriend's phone, but I'm glad I did. I, 22 female, black, am in an interracial relationship with my boyfriend, 23 male, white. We have been together for about 2 years. A couple nights ago, we had the weirdest argument. He wanted to hang out with friends. His car is in the shop, so I drove him to the gas station, bought him some beers for the party, got myself wine to relax and play Red Dead Redemption 2. I've been obsessed and dropped him off. I was invited, but I do not like his friends. Later, he Ubers home drunk, throws up, and I start playfully teasing him about it. Then he tries to exit my game. I thought he was joking, so I fought back and saved, but then he completely shut off the PC. It was so random and out of character that we just went to bed. I asked him why, and he started saying things like, I'm sorry, I'm not like Arthur Morgan, and bringing up insecurities about his looks. I said, you're being dumb and I love you regardless, because I didn't know what else to say. I was so confused as to where this was coming from. He didn't like that and was still being pissy, saying that I was calling him dumb, and so I went to sleep on the couch. When I came back later, he was passed out. I had a gut feeling and searched my name in his messages. I found texts from 6 months ago when we briefly broke up, where his best friend told him, I don't think she's the one for you, and I don't like the things she's pressuring you to do. I have no clue what that means. I feel our relationship is even. I like going out to bars and restaurants with or without him. If he comes along, sometimes I pay and sometimes he does. I also do most of the cooking and cleaning, and even prep his meals for the week while working and keeping the house clean. You know, the women work. I also saw him saying it was disgusting that I was becoming obese after birth control. I am not obese. I just went from severely underweight to mid-size, size 0 to size 6. Then I checked his group chats. His friends are all white and already make me uncomfortable by saying the N-word and making insensitive comments in my vicinity the first time I met them. Never wanted to be around them since in the chat they were sharing appalling memes like George Floyd jokes, Jewish jokes, and using the N-word casually. My boyfriend even sent a meme of a Pokemon card saying catching a negress. His what the hell? His best friend, the one who said those things about me in the text and who I felt more comfortable around because he has biracial siblings, was in there too sharing offensive memes. I wish I never would have seen it because now I cannot unsee it. But I'm also glad I did. How could I ever marry him or bring a biracial child into this world, knowing their father is like this behind the scenes? I'm sure if I brought this up, he would apologize and try to fix it, but I don't know if I could ever look past it. I am gutted. We live together with his family, who lets us stay for free. We had 2 cats together. It will take me a couple months to save and move out. He can tell me something is wrong, but I'm completely turned off by him now. I do not know when or how to tell him what I saw. Update today's confrontation. So after spending a couple of days away and being with friends, I finally opened up about the situation despite feeling embarrassed. I think it really comes down to a complete difference in morals. I view my partner as an extension of me. I view my friends the same way. If anyone in my circle spoke like his friends do, I'd be disgusted and cut them off immediately, whether it was in private or in front of me. My boyfriend says he never heard his friends talk like that near me. I don't remember if he was there when it happened, but I know I called them out in the moment, kind of joking to lighten it, but still uncomfortable and grossed out. I didn't want to flip out and look like the angry black girl, especially since they're already racist. One of them did apologize after I said something, but that doesn't change the fact that they're all complicit. He knew exactly what his friends were like and still chose to bring me around them. Do I think my boyfriend is racist? No. Do I think he's spineless with no moral code? Absolutely. I don't remember exactly what the meme he sent was because I was a bottle of wine deep and already upset after our fight, and seeing him and his best friend talking shit about my weight, I had to scroll down a bit in their group chat to even find something he sent. I'm not sure how old it was. It could have been a year ago or just a few months ago. Still, the fact that he's in the group at all means he's again complicit. Almost every day someone's saying the N-word. When we talked, I also brought up that if we were to ever get married and have all our friends and family together, I would never allow his friends anywhere near the people I love, especially if there were kids in the mix. He agreed and said he never really considered having them at our wedding or around future children, but that just makes me wonder, if you agree they're that bad, why would you ever bring me around them in the first place? I truly haven't accepted any invites to be around the friends who did said the really vile stuff since the first time I met them about 2 years ago. There are some I don't mind as much, except for the BFF who joined in on the wake comments and ironically has biracial siblings, but at the end of the day, they're all still complicit. After talking to my friends, a lot of them were disgusted too and encouraged me to break up with him. They even reminded me that I have places to stay if I needed it. I thought about it on the drive home and just broke down. The thought of ending things, moving, and untangling my life from him feels overwhelming. I'm not in the best financial situation, and it would take months to get my ducks in a row. I was already feeling pressure to confront him because I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine to his face. I came home planning to break it off. I started the convo already breaking down, couldn't bring myself to say explicitly that I wanted to break up. I did start by calling him out and admitting to snooping, and I told him how appalled and disappointed I was. He doesn't think it's his fault that his friends say these things in hopes I wouldn't assume he agrees with them just because they're dumb. He admitted he doesn't really see them as friends, just drinking buddies, which doesn't make it any better. They only hang out a few times a year besides the BFF and some guys I don't mind, but they've known each other since childhood, and he says that he's scared of being friendless. He also said they make fun of him too, and he's bad at defending himself, but still, why would you keep people like that in your life? He told me one of them made him uncomfortable that same night I saw the messages. Apparently, everyone was drinking, and one friend sexually harassed him and asked my boyfriend to sleep with him, and some other guys made jungle fever comments about him dating me. He says he spent a lot of the night alone in the pool to avoid them. I told him I understand being non-confrontational to a point, but I would hope that even he doesn't respect himself enough to stand up to them, he would at least respect me enough to do it for me. I stuck up for him before once when his friend was talking about shit about him in the same group chat. He showed me and I grabbed his phone and went off on the guy right then and there, but here I am feeling like he wouldn't do the same for me. I told him flat out, you told me you think me gaining weight is unattractive and I've been working on it. I've lost 15 pounds since you said that 6 months ago. And on the flip side, I don't think it's attractive to have no respect for yourself or for me and to be complicit in this friendship while dating a black woman. He said that he would talk to them about, but regardless, why did it take all of this for him to make the decision? Right now, I feel disgusted and embarrassed that this is the person I chose. I'm terrified about my living situation and feel like I've backed myself into a corner. Yes, I could crash with friends, but that would delay me getting my own place living rent free. Here has been helping me pay off credit cards and repair my credit, which is already bad thanks to 8-year-old me. My car is also barely hanging on, and I've been trying to fix it before moving. Breaking up sounds simple on paper, but for me it's complicated. For now, I'm keeping things cordial to have a roof over my head while I figure out my next steps. Trust me, I'm just as disgusted and disappointed as anyone else reading this. TLDR, took time away, talked to friends, and realized my boyfriend's lack of backbone of his racist friends is a deal breaker. He says he wouldn't have them at our wedding or around future kids, but still brought me around them in the past and stays in their group chat. He's going to confront them. I haven't broken up yet because I'm stuck living with him while I sort out my finances, but I'm still disgusted. That concludes all the stories for today. If you like the comment, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time.